shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
Hello and welcome to episode 309 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Tuesday, September 21st in the evening. Yes, Tuesday, I said it. And if you're listening to this, you're going to hear it hopefully by Wednesday, because this is the special 21.3 Patch Notes Extravaganza episode. Very exciting. From Gadsden, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Karazhan, California, we've got Botticus.
Yo.
And from Nomergon, Ohio, we've got Edelweiss.
Hello.
And thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, all of our patrons, especially our newest patron, Namu. Thank you so much, Namu. We appreciate your support. And for everyone that supports us, really, of course, it goes a long way. But also, your Apple podcast reviews, totally free. Help other people find the show. We really appreciate it. All right. Life and Ladder. Gosh, where do we start? Edelweiss, let's go. It's been a week and a half. What have you been up to?
So I treated myself for my birthday. I didn't realize quite how much it was going to be. I think like the last time I got a haircut and color was in high school. So I had shorter hair then. It took less time and was a lot cheaper. But we did that thing. It took the better part of today. Actually, the haircut was last week. So today was just the color. And my appointment was at noon. And I got out of there at maybe 5 p.m.
Wait, hold on. 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. That's 5 hours?
It's 5 hours, yeah.
That's a shift. That's like
yeah.
yeah. It's like a short work day.
I thought it was gonna be in the realm of maybe 3, but here we are. So I do like it. The stylist put in some kind of waves towards the end, which are not going to last. My hair will go back to being straight in short order, I'm sure. But yeah, it was pretty fun, and I do like the color. So
it looks nice. Looks good.
Yeah, thank you.
It's worth 5 hours and however much you paid for it, I suppose.
Well, I'm hoping that the color will last a significant enough time that it'll totally feel worth it.
Yes. Well, good. And how is the latter part of Life and Ladder?
Ladder, I haven't gotten to play too much since the changes, just because of, the whole 5 hours at the salon thing. But I did play Hero Power Mage, and it's not a tier 1 deck, magically. But it is significantly better. Wildfire, for one, is really great. So I do wonder if maybe it'll just see its way into some kind of mage deck, if not a dedicated hero power mage deck. The feeling I got was basically, if I found Mordrish, I usually won. And if I didn't, I usually lost. And that's kind of unsurprising. It's really good right now.
Yeah, it's I feel like the actual hero powering part of Wildfire, like, you don't really want to be hero powering in this meta unless you're life tapping, and even then we might not even want to be doing that anymore. So, like, Shadow Priest gets to start the game with the Wildfire hero power, and it doesn't want to do that unless it's tour guiding or killing you with it on turn 6. So I'm not surprised that the actual Wildfire part isn't there. Mordor seems good. Like, I don't know. 8 mana Pyroblast everything on the other side of the board, like, okay. But I don't think that we can win straight with that, and I don't know if we can reliably activate it.
I mean, Reckless Apprentice usually activates it all on its own,
Yeah, I suppose
And at
that's
least
true.
the way I've built the deck, the only spells are 2 wildfires and a fire sale. At first I had an ignite, but it felt like the fire sale was maybe going to be more useful. I've also got Mancrick in there, so once you've drawn your wildfires, you can have very few spells and you draw wife, because you've got the targeted draw in Star Scryer and the Dungeoneer. Even though it's a Frost Dungeoneer and we're drawing fire spells, who cares? The point is that it's targeted draw.
I wonder, lifetime cumulatively between all players, how many total Dungeoneer 1/1s have ever been made? Because every single time I've seen that card in a deck, it's to tutor a fire spell. Like, you use it to get your grand finale online or whatever, or I don't know. It feels like the just 3 mana 2/3 draw spell is all that Mage has wanted with that so far.
Yeah, definitely. I did
Man.
encounter 2 of them today. Someone made an abomination that is Hero Power Frost Secret Mage. I don't know who has done this or why.
It's too many words. Don't like
but
it.
I encountered 2 separate people playing this deck that had like some kind of weird, presumably Frost secret package, Dungeoneer and Wildfires, and I guess Mordrish. I beat both of them. So I guess I get to say I have the superior Wildfire Mage, but I was still confused when I got hit with a Cone of Cold and then a free 5/5.
I was just
I
thinking
would also be confused.
it would have been so cool if Dungeoneer was slightly different, where what it generated was based off the type of spell you drew. So if you drew the Frost spell, it would summon the elementals that freeze, but if it was a fire spell, it'd summon just like the regular 1/2 elementals. Or if it was an arcane spell, it would summon an elemental with like +1 spell damage on it.
That'd be fun.
That would have been cool, but also probably too wordy, or they would have had to have, Hearthstone text that is not descriptive.
Yeah.
Like they do sometimes.
It'd be like make an elemental based on the spell type would be the entire text.
Yeah. But that would have been cool, but also probably too good for mage decks that are trying to always draw spells, maybe.
Well, and that are trying to complete the quest, which specifically asks for those 3 different spell tribes.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's, that'd be interesting. Bodicus, buddy. How's life and letter? How you doing? What's up?
Doing alright. So, played a good amount of Hearthstone in the last week and a half. Mostly duels, I would say, if I had to guess. I'm up to like 7,700 heroics rating, which I guess is relatively high. I think that's right around where Enthralamond is, except that he plays decks for fun. He just he tries to make his own stuff, and sometimes it doesn't work and stuff. And I just always play whatever I think is the meta builds of decks. But yeah, been enjoying that. I will talk about the changes to duels, obviously, when we cover the patch notes, but I think it's some interesting changes. Wasn't playing a lot of BGs. It's like BGs just takes up so much more time than duels, and it feels like you can get in like a game of duels, or you could get 2 games in when you don't know really like what your schedule looks like. So fitting in duels is just kind of nice. And like, I don't know, there's nothing in standard that really speaks out to me. I was like so lost in standard. I was playing Poison Rogue because I didn't want to play any of the combo decks, and I just wanted to not lose to the combo decks.
You know, it'll make me enjoy standard more? Poison Rogue. That's what you said to yourself.
I didn't say enjoy it more. I just said I don't know what to play, and I don't want to lose to combo decks, so I played Poison Rogue. And then I beat a Warlock yesterday who played the snake that destroys a weapon. So
Viper.
I played a weapon, they destroyed it, and then I played another weapon, and then they killed their own snake, and then rezzed it back with Raised Dead and destroyed it, and then I killed them the next turn.
Oof.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that was fun. But
So,
other than that, been
Ooze is
playing
not the
a lot of yeah, play a bit of WoW, and actually got back into Slay the Spire quite a bit. Really, really enjoying Slay the Spire, and had the old Bodicus moment of trying to get the 3 pieces that you need for the Ascension, and
Oh, you
forgetting to
forgot
get the one
you forgot the key
in the
fire.
guaranteed chest. I forgot to get the one in the guaranteed chest, so I had to switch the route I was going up to hit a bunch of question marks, and then I hit another chest, so I was able to get it. I saved myself, but then I
Yes.
lost anyway, so I was sad.
Well, all right. Well, very exciting, anyways.
Yeah,
I've
I'm
been-
almost up to Ascension 20 on Ironclad on 3 accounts.
That's ridiculous. Play
And
more
everything
Watcher.
else is like
Play
single
more
digits.
Watcher. She's purple.
I mean, yeah, Watcher's just like overpowered, but like not so overpowered that you can't lose with her. So it feels bad to lose with her. And like Ironclad is just like I take perfected strikes and then realize how good that card actually is unless you remove all the strikes from your deck. And it's just like so good early, and you do so much damage. Like you gotta look, like if you look at when you upgrade a card, how much, like if you upgrade a damage card and you look at how much it increases its damage, you get like anywhere from 3 to 5 damage on average. But whenever you upgrade a perfected strike, it's like 6 to 7 damage extra on top of it, and you just murder everything in Act 1. So I'm gonna take more perfected strikes, even more than I was taking before, which was more than most people take, I think.
Very good against the knob. Yes.
The knob?
Gremlin knob. You know, the one where you have to kill him because you can't use skills.
Ah, yes. But also not great against it because it's a single target spell. I guess it's good because you need to kill specifically that one. It's also good against slime because you need to do a lot of damage to ooze in Act 1.
Yes. Anyways, this is a different video game.
Sure.
I have been on a staycation for the past week and a half. It's something that I historically did when I was working at theaters, just take 2 weekends off in September and all the time in between and just kind of catch up on life. Large blocks of unaccounted for time definitely hit different in 2021, and it was a lot harder to corral myself. So I wasn't as productive as I wanted to be, but I played an absurd amount of Hearthstone because there's so much to do in the client right now. So, I broke into top 100 again, with Quest Lifesteal Demon Hunter, which I was initially skeptical that it was better than the Momentum Demon Hunter, the full Lion's Frenzy build. And the full Lion's Frenzy build is much, how am I going to phrase it? It's much whooshier. There's a lot more card draw and a lot more, like, you whoosh the cards around, a lot more drawing. It feels better, but you lose more. Whereas the Lifesteal deck, you get into weird board states a lot, and you almost complete phases of the quest a lot. You find your brutes more often, you don't play Soul Fragments, so you're less likely to just spew them out. But then you do this thing where you play Immolation or Moarg Fellscream Blast, and then you don't die, and then you win the game a few turns later. There has definitely been, there were a couple games against Shadow Priest, where just like Moarg, Fellscream, and then the next turn just play Il'gynoth and start attacking, and win the game. Because what do they do? So, it's taxing to play. Not as much as Garrote Rogue, thank goodness, because that deck is... I tried playing that deck, and it's just so unpleasant of an experience to try and pilot successfully. So I didn't bother. It's the Dark Souls of decks. Go ahead, quote me. It's fine. But the Quest Lifesteal was close enough to the Momentum deck that I love so much that it felt familiar, but it was also just better against what I was seeing. and so I played a bunch and then won a bunch, including a game where Lambie Series elucidated me twice by turn 5, and then I won. Like, it's pretty good. And there were a few other games where just it felt like I should have lost, and then I didn't because of the lifesteal cards and the AoE, and then I just won a bunch. So I expect that deck will still be decent. I'm going to try that out, but broken to top 100, the old ladder anxiety took hold, and I'm like, I'm just going to let that sit there for a while. So I went and got Legend and Wild with Mind Blasts, mostly. Some Pew-Pews with the Odd Quest Hunter, which is a very enjoyable deck to play. But then once I broke into, really, the Diamond ranks, I just switched over to Mind Blast, and Mind Blast is very good right now. And also, I was seeing a lot of Pirate Warriors and other Shadow Priests, so I pulled out an old friend that is a Shadow spell. Potion of Madness. That's a Shadow spell. Very, very good with Shadowcloth Needle. Very, very good when your opponent plays minions, because then they don't have them anymore. And I killed my opponents a bunch, and including a 7-0 run from Diamond 3 to Legend at the end there. So that was enjoyable. I like that. And then I also played a lot of BGs. I'm just about at the 6K mark. Like, I've just been playing a lot of BGs, and it's pretty fun. This was before the patch, and I was enjoying it, even though every lobby had either like 5 people with Doomsayer or 5 people with Frog. Like, okay. But Omega Buster mechs. Big fan of Omega Buster mechs. And also, I got Millhouse Elementals going. In the turn, I found the Refreshing Elemental. I died, so I got to keep running that back. And then also, I played a bunch of Duels. Played a lot of Hearthstone this week. A lot of Hearthstone this week.
Yeah, I know you were saying right before the show you played Duels. Tell me about your Duels experiences. I want to know.
So,
how it's been going.
I am the opposite of you. I play exclusively casual Duels. I've talked about it on the show a few times before. It is definitely my go-to couch mode when I'm not BGing. Lately, I've been mostly BGing, but then also I've been doing some dueling. I had a nice 12-0 or 12, not 12-0, 12-1, I think, run with Spell Rogue, with Flame Shaper and the just all your spells cost
Oops,
one
all
less.
spells?
No.
Oh, you didn't have Oops all spells.
I
Okay.
had the Scrying or Khadgar's Ronin's the better one.
Right.
Wait.
Where
hang
all
on.
your spells cost 1 less.
Oops, all spells? What?
So that's
So
what I
there's
have going on right now. So,
Yeah.
okay. There's a passive that got nerfed earlier today. Oops all spells. At the start of the game, after your mulligan, but before your first draw, delete all minions from your deck. All your spells cost 1 less, and they all have spell damage +2.
Yeah.
What?
It is an ultra
so
rare.
busted. It is so busted.
So-
Absolutely broken.
So, Bodicus, I have to tell you this. Because they're nerfing all the good passives today, last night before I went to bed, I got a Demon Hunter run to 3 wins just to see if I could get Flame Shaper Oops All Spells, and I did. We got it. So,
nice.
that run is still active currently, which means I'm going to dunk on some kids.
Yeah, I did the same thing with Shaman, except I got All Together now.
Yes,
but
which
I
also got
missed on Rally the Troops and only got Goggles, and
Yes.
decided to just play the run through and got 10 wins. But
Yeah.
Goggles is still okay.
Yeah, it's Goggles is still a very good passive. So I enjoy casual duels, and also the last mode I've been playing is YouTube because I want to Mercenaries very badly, and there are a lot of Mercenaries videos that came up on YouTube in the past day and a half ish, and I have been watching and rewatching because I want to do that. But we can't yet. Not for another 3 weeks. That's not so far away. That's not so
15th
far.
of
It's kind of a
October, right?
while.
12th. 3 weeks from today. Ah.
I'm gonna have to block out that week.
Yes. And that mode is dangerously mobile friendly, so it's gonna be a problem. So Hearthstone is cool, but we have an episode. We have a large episode that is exclusively reading one patch notes article and also reading a couple tweets at the end. We did the Angry Chicken yesterday, and this one article, with skipping most of the mercenary stuff, was an hour and 45 minutes. So, I think that we'll probably move at a similar clip here, so we got a lot of content for you. It's broken down not in terms of news, tournaments, explanations. This is constructed, Battlegrounds, and Mercs in that order. So I haven't figured out what bumpers I'm going to play yet. I'm just going to press buttons on my... Wait a minute. Okay, no, I know exactly what bumpers I'm going to hit. I'm going to have bumpers here, but they're not going to be the usual bumpers. We're going to have a normal show on Thursday, which will hit the feed at the normal time, but this is just like... We took last week's episode and we made it special for today. So, be ready for bumpers. Let's start with the constructed stuff. You ready? All ready? Let's go.
Yeah, this is by your editing.
Let's go.
It's Rattlegore because it never ends. Let's go.
You're not wrong. So, constructed, we have a whole lot of nerfs and buffs. So, overall, balance changes. Top of the list, Irebound Brute from 7 mana to 8 mana. Irebound Brute was playable a bit earlier than intended on average, pushing it back a turn should it soften extreme turns. I do wonder if this is actually pushing it back a turn. I haven't gotten the chance to play with this much yet, but I am a little worried that the 1 mana nerf isn't really pushed back a turn necessarily, because you weren't usually plotting out just for brute anymore. I don't think. I think it was just sort of like you got to play a brute on a turn that you were doing quest completion-y things. I think it's good that this is slower.
Kinda, sorta. Like, there were some matchups, especially with the full momentum build, not with the quest build, where the only way you won was by spiking 2 to 3 brutes. Like, it was, you aimed for a brute or 2 on turn 3 and 2 to 3 brutes on turn 4, if that's what you were going for. But that plan had to fall into your lap. And it was, there were a lot of times where if you didn't set it up, especially if you weren't playing the soul fragments in the full Lion's Frenzy build, you would just whiff and have a handful of 1 mana brutes, and it was very, very sad. So, this makes it a lot more likely that instead of completing the quest and dropping a brute, you either choose between do I wait a turn or do I go for it now and skip the brutes. And that's probably what's intended, because every change they made is about slowing the game down. Every change they made is about enabling some kind of environment where slower decks that play 8 drops can exist. And this was a big part of it. Every time that you looked at screenshots of Quest Demon Hunter decks, it was just pictures of brutes way earlier than you would expect that kind of stat explosion on the board with the caption "Brute me, dude." And I'm all about that, and that being a part of our experience for a little while. But that welcome would have gotten worn out pretty quick if that was a key part of standard on turn 3 and 4.
Yeah, I think you described previously that you had to have 1 mana remaining after your glide before to be able to play another draw spell or trade or whatever and get down a brute. Now you need 2. So definitely going to be making more compromises in terms of, all right, are we going for a stage of the quest or do we really need to hit the brutes? As you say, in certain aggro matchups, like, you kind of have to spike the brutes. Yeah. Honestly, good to slow it down. I don't know quite what the impact of this will be on like the lifesteal version specifically, since you have a lot more tools to work with on that deck. But
yeah, you kill slower, right? You're a lot less likely to just make 18 power and smack your opponent with it, or 21 power. Like, that just gets slowed down a little bit. It's hard to tell. Like, everything that we talk about today is going to be in the context of the patch has been out for 8 hours, and no one really knows what's good yet. It is a new meta completely with the amount of changes that they made. My guess is that the lifesteal deck is still just fine, but it feels like less BS sometimes, which is kind of what they need to do with every incarnation of Lifesteal Demon Hunter.
Yeah.
Speaking of less BS.
Second on the list, and this is probably the biggest one of all. This was really, it's a rework. It is also a nerf, but in general they called it a rework. Mindrender Illusia went from swap hands and decks with your opponent to replace your hand with a copy of the opponent's hand until end of turn. I kind of abbreviated the first thing. Previous to Lucia, you swapped, they had to play their turn with your hand, and what it meant with aggressive decks was just they didn't have any cards except for whatever you were going to top deck, and you skipped your opponent's turn with Lucia. That was pretty nonsense and not intended. So they've finally gotten rid of that effect. I do wonder if they might have been able to do something to keep the disruption piece of Elucia, but I also understand the decision to just say, hey, this is one of the most emotionally polarizing cards in Hearthstone's history, and it's okay if it just kind of goes away. I do think there are some spots where it could still be good. You can kind of get value from copying your opponent's hand if you are a more controlling deck. If they happen to have a combo in hand that would kill you immediately, and that -3 mana you can still use to kill them immediately, or otherwise just pick up burst, because often that's not a thing Priest has. You can still use it, but it's, I think overall we can agree, a much worse card, because getting a copy of the opponent's hand means that maybe you can also have someone's quest reward, but you can never take their quest reward from them. So no more disruption from this, really.
Boy, was I wrong about this card. I didn't know that this card was playable at 2 mana, and now it's just completely... I would say it's completely dead. I know that there's potential use cases, but I would say this card is pretty dead. I actually saw a really good alternative that they could have done with this card that I thought was interesting. That was replace cards in your hand with cards from your opponent's hand. So if you don't have many cards and your opponent has a bunch of cards, you just kind of take as many cards from their, like randomly take cards from their hand and replace them with cards from your hand. Until it's so you just swap card for card instead of swapping full hands.
So you kind of you drain their cards,
right?
Each one of your cards drains one of theirs.
Exactly. That to prevent, like, obviously the whole, like, prevent the aggro decks from making kind of too good a use out of it. But overall, I'm going to be honest, I'm happy about this change, because I wasn't as tilted when it used to happen when it was in the controlling Priest, because usually they were doing other stuff that was really annoying to lose to, whereas this from the Shadow Priest is pretty... it's just... it's very aggravating. It's very aggravating when this happens to you when you're playing against Shadow Priest, so...
It's Turtle Mage on turn 5, right? Like, it's just the Turtle Mage experience encapsulated down to one turn when you're facing down lethal. It's a 3 mana your opponent doesn't get to take their next turn is not how that's not a thing that's supposed to be in the game.
It's just like Time Walk. It feels like Time Walk in mostly Time Walk in Hearthstone, and for those of you who don't play Time or Magic, Time Walk was a 2 mana card that gives you an extra turn, and and that card is banned in like basically every single format, or restricted in Vintage, which is the most powerful of all formats. So yeah, I'm glad to see this change. I know there's there's been I'm surprised that there's been an outcry from people calling this the new commander, right? The new
I mean, it's one of the hardest nerfs we've seen in a very long time, right? Like, this is one of the most... It's a rework, but is to like... It takes a good card and makes it into a much worse card. There is upside here in decks that do not exist currently. That if you took this in Baron's Priest, you would still lose to the Rogues and the Demon Hunters most of the time, because you don't disrupt their combo. But one of the things in Control Priest mirrors and a lot of other matchups is that giving away your hand was often worse than taking theirs. And so this version completely mitigates that risk. but there's no deck right now that wants a copy of your cards for value and can go really long. That's not a thing that Hearthstone's about right now. So this card might have some upside in that kind of archetype, but that kind of archetype is not anywhere near existing. So if you own this card, you should probably get your dust while you can. And in Shadow Priest, you can kind of play it as a really scuffed Divine Favor if you need to, but you shouldn't. We've had Lucy in Standard for a year. She'll get reverted when she rotates. It's been a fun year. For some. Not everybody. And the people that don't like Lucia have made that very clear. But there are absolutely people out there that this card was made for that really enjoyed it. I'm glad they had the time with her. But I'm sorry the time is over. It's time for a Standard without a Lucia, and we haven't had that in a long time. So, this is basically Hall of Faming the card. That's basically what they did. So, enjoy your dust. If you want her back when they revert her, keep it.
Yeah, I think they maybe could have pushed her back down to 2 mana with this text change.
Sure. But they didn't want to.
But, yeah, or they were just like, well, we don't want to risk people getting upset again.
It is okay for this card to stop being a part of Standard for now.
Yeah.
Like, that is what they did. That's what they wanted to do. I understand there are people that will be upset about that, but I think that the way that old Lucia defined Standard for a year was, I think we're done.
Well, so moving on from Lucia, we have Perpetual Flame going from 1 mana to 2 mana. I think most of us saw this coming when they said Shaman was on the list. Perpetual Flame is filthy. It does not need to come off of Wandmaker, and it's not going to go out of any decks, I think, at 2 mana. Still crazy, crazy good board clear.
I have a question. Is Wandmaker evil? It is, right?
A little bit.
It's an evil card.
A little bit.
How many times have cards been nerfed or that we've suggested they should have been nerfed because of Wandmaker? I feel like it's frequent.
Was this card nerfed because of Wandmaker, or was this card nerfed because this card's too good?
No, this card was nerfed because of Perpetual Flame. But think about, like, the Evocation was definitely partially nerfed because of Wandmaker. It was mentioned in the patch notes. We were running Wandmakers and Cobalt Spellkins to get more Evocations. Like, that's...
Yep.
Remember how often we got Wave of Apathy and Renewed. Renewed got nerfed because of Wandmaker. I think Wandmaker is a little evil.
I mean, Wandmaker is a little evil, and also 1 mana cards that are too good are also kind of evil because they cost 1 mana, and anybody can fit in 1 mana in a lot of places. So
you know what happened? Dark Peddler cleaned up his act and opened a wand store. Yeah, justice for Dark Peddler.
Maybe 1 mana cards are evil. Just don't make any more 1 mana cards.
It's possible.
And then we'll go back. And then we'll go back.
I don't know
to,
about that one, Chief.
Then we'll go back to 10 mana Crystal Hearthstone. Back when you could actually get to 10 mana crystals.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. 12.5% to hit Wildfire feels pretty okay to me.
I'm not saying that there can't be fun with Wandmaker. I've enjoyed my time with Wandmaker. I'm just saying, card's a little evil. It's a little bit. It's kind of like the Life Drinker of current Standard, where you don't realize till after it rotates about how many degenerate things enabled. But there were a bunch of things. Like, I don't know, Life Drinker was letting us Shudderwalk people, and then we were picking it up with Waggle Pick, and it's like, maybe this isn't okay. Maybe we should do something else. Speaking of 1 mana Shaman cards that got nerfed.
How does Wildfire and Frostlich Jaina work? I assume Jaina resets it, right?
If you do it before. You have a new hero power, so I'd assume that the buff doesn't carry over, but that is a theory at best.
Do you have a new hero power, or do you have... Because, like, if you're playing, the reason I'm thinking about this, which is probably relevant, and we're already wasting too much time on it, but odd, mage, and wild, if you have the odd mage hero power, that's a completely new hero power, but wildfire just makes it do 1 more damage. So
Yep.
I wonder if you convert to Jaina in odd mage and wild, if it still does more damage if you've wildfired already.
Twitch chat is very
I-
confident that you lose the wildfire buff.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that tracks. Because you're replacing the hero power.
Yeah. It would have to be a buff to your hero and not a buff to the hero power itself, and since they've implemented this sort of thing, they have allowed that tech to like hit the specific button. You upgrade the button and not the portrait. Yeah, chat is very confident. There's 1, 2, 3. There are 5 people that all keeping their
But you
story
could
straight.
probably wildfire after Frostlit.
Yes.
Jaina
Oh, yeah.
to
You
make
can.
it do
Sure,
too.
definitely.
Okay.
Well, no, you can't. It goes back to the original because the fire melts the ice. And
I
so
don't
just-
think it works that way. In fact,
No,
I think
if
if you
you-
got a wildfire as a warlock, you would deal 3 to yourself.
That's correct. Because then you soul tap, but it's hotter. It hurts more. But if you want to test it, just go outside in the winter with fire and some ice, and then the fire will melt the ice. That's just science.
Sure.
If you were outside, you were commanding the elements. Speaking of which,
Command the... Oh, wait. Hang on. First, I want to read the dev comments because I skipped over this earlier. So, dev comment for Elucia. With the refinement of Shadow Priest in recent weeks, Mindrender Elucia has been overperforming in the archetype in an unintended way. Instead of being used as a late-game disruption tool, Shadow Priests have been using Elucia as an early gameplay tool to essentially skip the opponent's turn. The change is aimed at removing that problematic gameplay from Elucia while still keeping her in a similar space with her effect. So that was Elucia, and on Perpetual Flame is a very efficient removal tool for Questline Shaman. Going up 1 mana here will give board-based decks a better shot against Shaman in the early and mid-game. I don't know about that, but it is less efficient. And then
Yes.
Command the Elements. Phase 3 went from 2 steps to 3 steps, which makes sense. That feels like one that was ready to be done, honestly, because it was the, not symmetrical part of the quest. You've got 3 steps for phase 1, 3 steps for phase 2. It kind of makes sense that, okay, too strong with only 2 steps in phase 3. Just bump it up 1. Slowing down the speed at which questline shamans can get their final reward should open up more room for counterplay, particularly from slower strategies.
you're going to hear that a lot today. Slower strategies. It's going to come up a lot.
I'm sad.
Yeah, I was going to say, but do you have any feelings on this?
I mean, I'm okay at, like, I think the Perpetual Flame makes sense. I guess the steps make sense if they're trying to slow everybody else down. You definitely should slow down Quest Shaman. But based on the last time I was playing Quest Shaman, this 1 extra step could slow you down on it. I think is going to slow you down on average 1.5 turns because of the density of overload cards. It often to me felt like my last overload card would be the one to complete the quest, which means that you're top decking and to get your last quest completion now, which means that it probably takes either 1 to 2 turns usually to get that last overload card, unless you get really good RNG from your guidances.
Yep. And also,
I mean,
you
think
would
this will also
finish the
speed up.
quest. You would finish the quest, and then you would have 1 card, and it would be a guidance. Then you would overdraw the same turn. Like, you would just have infinity cards that same turn. And so now, that last card that you're playing to get Brucon, instead of your first card you're playing that benefits from Brucon, it's hugely different. Like, it's a really, really different... This feels more like a Lightning Bloom nerf to me, because you're being punished for having inefficient card economy, and Bloom was the fast way to just, like, book it through the quest, but then run out of stuff just at the end, and then Brucon would save you. This is definitely a nerf to that play pattern.
Yeah, you might be right in that it, like, now the Wand Maker builds that play the Spell Discover cards as well It's probably a bigger nerf to that version of the deck. But I haven't played the Doomhammer version as much. I feel like the Doomhammer version was probably the better version that I never really got to try out. So I wonder how this affects that version of the deck. I don't know if they played a significantly higher density of overload cards than my version.
I would think that it would hurt the Doomhammer decks quite a bit because you're running Stormstrike and Rockbiter, which are not overload cards.
Well, you didn't care as much about getting to Brucon, like it was obviously a nice thing, but you cared about hitting Warlocks and Mages with a hammer. There are going to be less Warlocks, theoretically less Mages, though we'll see. If there are more Mages, then maybe that's fine. The thing about the Doomhammer version is that it was worse against the aggressive decks, but you had the tools to be good enough anyways because you were Quest Shaman, you had 1 mana Perp Flame, and you don't anymore. So, if the format gets to be more aggressive, or if there are more Divine Shields and 4 health minions, you might not be able to play the Doomhammer version because you might just die. They did nerf Rod, so there will be fewer Vipers, because as you learned, Botticus, you can survive through Vipers as Poison Rogue. Doomhammer Shaman doesn't have that same kind of redundancy. If your hammer gets Vipered, that game is kind of not all that worth playing out much more.
Right.
And also, usually the correct thing to do in the Doomhammer builds was to cut Charged Call. If your deck slows down, you probably can't do that, which means you probably don't even bother with the Doomhammer build anymore.
And I think this will make sense when we see whatever new cards come out, because I fail to believe, or I do not believe that they would have come out with this quest line and do not plan to give us more overload cards, whether in the mini set or the following expansion. We're going to have more overload cards, and they're probably going to be playable. So more likely the quest gets better, which means that this kind of preemptively makes it so that you're not going to have that issue that I'm having where you're like barely completing the quest.
Have you played the overload deck in Wild, by the way?
No, but I imagine it's quite good because you have 2 mana, draw 2, overload 2.
You have Spirit of the Frog, and so you tutor out your overdrafts.
Yeah.
You tutor out your overdrafts, and you do have Ancestral Knowledge, and then you Perp Flame them for 1 million, and then you overdraft. I think my record for overdrafting is 18. I think I overdrafted for 18.
Ooh.
It was pretty juicy.
Oh my God.
I know what I'm doing later.
I got a list
just
for
go
you.
ahead, shoot me a DM.
Yeah, I'll take care of it. Yeah. What else we got, though? We got more.
Well, the things you're not going to be doing in Wild anymore. Demon Seed has been banned in Wild. I'm not super surprised by this one. You know, they could have done something like hit Dark Glare or like ban Dark Glare. I kind of expected to be either Dark Glare or the quest wasn't going to make it for Warlock in Wild. So, yeah, they banned the Demon Seed in Wild, and then they nerfed it in Standard. So it is now 8 health at every stage of the quest. So 8, 8, 8. It means 3 additional damage that you need to take, which isn't a ton, but it does slow it down, particularly when the curve used to be something along the lines of turn 2, tap, turn 3, tap, tour guide, turn 4, tap for free, and you've got phase 1 complete. Now you will be too shy. I think you probably are going to see the 2 mana removal spell that hurts you make its way back into lists. Shadow Blast.
Yep.
That had been falling out of lists. I expect it will come back as another way to sort of keep removing things and move your way through the quest. It also means that you'll see earlier backfires, because previously you might want to just use taps to complete the first phase of the quest because it lined up nicely, and then if you use a backfire in the second phase, it makes it line up nicely for that 7, but now the math works out differently, so you just fire off a backfire on 3.
This is... So, we can preface this a little bit. It's Tuesday, we've seen some ladder. The class is not dead. So we can officially call this a good nerf. At least as of right now, the class is not dead. Our good buddy, Mad at Arms, also hosts the Squelch podcast, hit Legend with a quest handlock build. He put in the Dark Alley packs, because the format seems to be a little bit slower now, so that's the 4-mana spell that makes a demon with stats equal to your hand size. And said the deck's still really good. He cut Rod, which also got nerfed, and instead just went for classic handlock. And you need the quest because this is your quest, or your Flesh Giant thing. And this nerf is not a nerf to the quest, it's a nerf to Flesh Giant. It is another nerf to Flesh Giant. Now, it does nerf the quest in a two-pronged way, because it takes you more self-damage to get to that life tick, and it also takes longer to get the life back. So you're more vulnerable in the early game, you're more dependent on Soul Rend than ever. You can still play like a removal-heavy build, it's just you're not going to be able to casually complete this without thinking about it while filling your hand with cards. You're going to have to think about it, you're going to have to go to your way for it, or it's going to be way, way slower. And again, if we read this dev comment, I got this one at Advice, you've been a pro for all of these so far. After monitoring both Standard and Wild since the release of Stormwind, we've decided to both increase the damage required in the first 2 steps for Standard and ban the questline in Wild. In Standard, we are slightly upping the amount of damage needed to complete the questline to slow down the speed at which Tamsin locks up games. I said we'd hear that a lot. In Wild, where there are many more efficient self-damaging cards, the Demon Seed can be completed at an unintentionally fast rate. We are banning the card to protect the format from the problematic gameplay it created. When the Demon Seed rotates to Wild, we will unban it and reposition the card to be more appropriate for the format. That's pretty clear. I'm glad it's still playable in Standard. It's a big nerf on paper. Seems like Last's not dead, but it's definitely notably worse. Edelweiss, you said you ran into 1 today on ladder?
I did, and I was playing Hero Power Mage, and I only hit one of the wildfires, so I was not fast enough in terms of my burn output. But the delete lock cards are still all very, very powerful, and I think you're still going to find yourself losing to the same situation as you did before, if you are on the slower side, that being they get down to 10 cards and they have a massive swing turn of, Bristleback, Baron Scavenger, Flash Giant, something like that. Bristleback is honestly kind of nuts. I think if Warlock is going to be hit again later, it might be somewhere in the life gain area, because it still is pretty insane, the amount they can gain with Tamsin and Touch of the Nethrazim, Drain Soul, Bristleback. There's just a lot of life gain going on in there, even without Spice Bread Baker, which I thought might make its way back into lists, but seems that hasn't been a necessary card yet.
It's the quest is just a Niru Fireblade that you can't burn, and that's good enough. It's good enough. And also, it's like it's a coupon for your first 2, like for 2 of your self-damaging spells. You kind of like self-damage once, get the next self-damage half off. Like it's just a discount. The Flesh Giant stuff is going to be way less relevant because of how much longer the game is going to go for that to come online. So it's really just, it takes the edge off of the cards you want to play anyways, and then it's just a Niru that you can't burn. Cool.
Yeah, it always felt like they completed the stages of the quest just a little too fast. So I think this is just going to feel better. I think in the games that you play against Warlock, you're just going to feel better about the rate at which they're completing their stages of the quest, and the timing that they get the small heals, and I think it's just going to feel better, and I'm glad to see this change. I think this change makes a lot of sense. Not only slowing it down, but also having a bigger cost. So, plus the next change that goes along with it, probably needed.
Yep. Ruined Mithril Rod is another part of how the deck has slowed down pretty substantially. It has gone from 3 mana to 4 mana. The devs say Ruined Mithril Rod is overperforming relative to mana generation sources in other classes, mainly due to Warlock's card draw potential. Going up 1 mana will bring Ruined Mithril Rod's power level more in line with what other classes have access to. I don't know if this is going to stick around. It was in the list that I saw, but people like Mad at Arms taking it out for more aggressive cards. It's going to need some testing to see if it's worth it.
I have a dev comment. I'm not a dev, but I have a comment.
Okay.
This card was stupid, and I'm glad it's dead. Did you? This card just felt like you got to play Emperor Thaurissan on turn 3 a lot of the time, and it got to live for 2 turns.
Yeah,
that's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to be able to do that. Rogue is working so hard. They're holding Octobot, and they're shadow stepping their Octobots now just to get what Rod would do for 3 mana pass. 3 mana pass. Just absolutely no. I should clarify that was not a dev comment. That's not from a dev. That's from me. I'm not a dev. I'm substituting what they could have put in the website. They could have just said this card is stupid and we're glad it's dead.
Yeah. 4 mana is a lot more investment on the front end. It also means you can't coin it out and then go backfire for immediate discount. 2 Thaurissan ticks is a lot. And the fact that you now need to be on like a lot more mana to be able to guarantee you get the discount. I hope that this means we will no longer see the just like massive cycle through your deck versions. Maybe those will come back over time, but it was not a great experience seeing people running Hand of Gul'dan not to be discarded and played, but to be cast and recast off of Baby Tamsin to just kill you with the draws from the quest reward. And they were able to do things like that because they had massive reductions from Ruined Mithril Rod.
Have you ever played against 2 1-mana bristlebacks? It is unpleasant. It's an unpleasant experience. 2 mana, deal 12, gain 12. It's too good.
And the major power spike came from just 1 discount in not those turbo draw decks, but the ones with Goldshire Knolls. And then I think they all had Baron Scavenger. Actually, I guess these were in all the versions, but because they would be at 1 mana with a full hand or with 10 cards left in your deck, a single discount means they're just free. So the swing turns were pretty offensive.
By the way, that was a bug. They fixed it.
Oh, so now they'll just be 1.
Because the text of this costs 1 has been inconsistent. Remember all the times you sculled into Bladed Lady or I-Beam, and then it would cost 1?
Yeah.
This was supposed to cost 1, but instead it cost 1 and then got the discount. We're supposed to get the discount and then be like, no, this costs 1. That wasn't happening. They fixed it. It costs 1 now.
What about Goldshire Knoll? That one can still be free.
Well, no, Goldshire Knoll was just like take 10 and subtract numbers, right?
Right.
That was the text working as intended. But when something says this costs 1, it's supposed to mean it. Didn't mean it.
Right. Okay. That's nice. Yeah, not having to deal with free Baron Scavengers will be quite nice.
Yes, for a lot of reasons.
Honestly, when you put it as 3 mana, 2 Thaurissan ticks, I think I might pay 4 mana for 2 Thaurissan ticks.
It might be worth it.
It might still be okay at 4 mana.
The difficulty is that it's 4 mana literally do nothing with the turn that you play it, and the power play before was coin Rod into backfire and instantly trigger it. And so now if you're coining, you're holding your backfire, then you're floating a mana the next turn, so you kind of mitigate the benefit of the discount. It might still be worth doing, but it's a lot harder to commit to 4 mana, do something pass. So I hope the format keeps Warlock honest enough that it can't afford to play Rod, but if the format is slow enough that you can get away with playing this, the effect is still disgusting. Still really, really powerful. It just doesn't line up quite as well with the curve. It reminds me of the Corrupt Elementalist nerf from 5 to 6. Because there were all those times when you would, like, coin Elementalist into Dragon's Pack. It feels so long ago, goodness, because they were both 5. And then when they moved Elementalist to 6, that entire curve got disrupted.
Yep. And I think there may be some weird stuff that'll happen, right? Say it falls out of lists for a while, and then people stop running the Vipers, and then because Viper isn't around, you can run it again. That kind of weirdness is always at play, but it still is a very powerful effect. The question is whether it'll be worth giving up, your turn 4.
Yep. If Fatigue Lock still exists, it will still play this card, because I think you kind of need it to. I don't know if Fatigue Lock will keep existing. It could. It has all the survivability tools, but the mechanism of the quest getting nerfed there too also hurts a lot. Anyways.
For sure.
We got some buffs too. So this next paragraph here, I want to read this very specifically. We're looking at opening up a few more strategies for some of the less diverse classes and underrepresented archetypes in the standard metagame. These buffs are aimed at some of the weaker archetypes to make them more appealing options to play with. Some of these changes are on the lighter side in anticipation of the mini-set coming in the next major patch after the launch of Mercenaries. So, just to be really, really clear, and I verified this with Deck Tech on Twitter, this mini-set is later than usual by a number of weeks. Usually, the mini-set is 2 months after the expansion. That's what we've seen for every mini-set so far. It is 2 months after the expansion, almost to the day. We had Dark Moon Races, which was right in the middle of January. We had, was it January or February? I forget. I think it was January, because that was the one they did in, yes, Dark Moon Fair was mid-November. We had Wailing Caverns, 2 months after the launch of Barrens. That was the last week of May, around Memorial Day weekend. This is going to be almost 3 months, most likely, before the launch of the mini-set. Wailing Caverns goes off sale on Tuesday, October 19th, which is the week after Mercenaries. That could be when we get the mini-set, or it could be the week after that. We're looking at late October, early November, and this set came out the first week of August. So we're looking at the longest gap we've had between a set and the mini-set since they started doing mini-sets. This also means we'll likely only have 4 to 6 weeks with the mini-set meta before the next expansion, which is confirmed to be in December unless that date slips. It's expected to be in December because if you look at the WoW 6-month tie-in, the advertising for the packs is you get the Stormwind packs now, and then you get packs for the next expansion in December. It says that when you get a WoW 6 months membership. So this looks to be a whirlwind period where you're going to have a really, really short time with the mini-set overall, and we want to make sure, listener, that you know, Mercenaries is going to take center stage at the beginning of October, and we aren't going to get the mini-set until later in the month. So be aware that this particular set of balance changes to make sure that we have a fresh environment for those next few weeks until we get more cards. So, thoughts on that, or should we head right into the buffs?
Yeah,
Buffs,
makes sense to me.
Buffs.
All right. So, to start off our buffs, we have Leatherworking Kit, which is a hunter card, going down from 2 mana to 1 mana. Seems right.
What does this card do? I have no idea what this card does. I didn't
this
know that this
card-
was a card in Hearthstone.
It honestly, I had tried playing with it. It's a really great effect. So whenever a beast of yours dies, or sorry, when 3 beasts of yours die, you draw a beast and give it +1/+1. So it's a nice way for you to take advantage of targeted card draw. Kibler has recently been climbing with a deck that takes advantage of Volpertinger, which doubles, buffs that it gets since it summons a copy of itself. Leatherworking Kit is just a really nice way to kind of add card draw to Hunter, except it only draws beasts. So this is pretty important if you're trying to complete that Elwyn Boar achievement. But I think it could see some serious play with just maybe you've got Volpertingers and Pack Mule and
And Rhino.
one other beast, maybe Zixor.
Right, Rhino. Tripling Rhino.
Oh, yeah, I guess Tripling Rhino, yeah.
Yeah. It's, Molino had a version of Hand Buff Hunter that he was playing in top 100 on N8 Ladder, and it was doing reasonably well with it as well. And Kibler climbed almost the top 1,000 with us today. Played 7 hours of Hearthstone. When I checked his stream, he had been streaming for 7 hours, and Kibler was not interested in playing that much Hearthstone this expansion before today. So I'm glad he's happy again. It's at 2 mana, you couldn't really get away with playing it. And a note here: this doesn't work with Pack Mule the way you want it to. It doesn't buff both mules; it only buffs one mule. But Dire Frenzy is in Standard. Dire Frenzy is a card in Standard. So Kibler had a bunch of times today where he would play a Wolpertinger, Dire Frenzy it, Selective Breeder it back out, and then play it. And Selective Breeder was the 2 mana 1/1 Battlecry, discover a copy of a beast in your deck. It's a 1/3 now, so you can just slam it on 2. And, it's not great, but it's not embarrassing. It is now equally statted to a Caravan, which shows how bad it was before.
This card used to be sweet. What are you talking about?
It was
even
sweet,
as a
but
1/1, you would play
yeah.
this card because you would get extra King Crushes in your hand before you killed your opponent with the 8 mana put 3 beasts into play. So now it's a 1/3, so that deck is alive again because a 1/3 can kind of fight for a board a little bit better.
Alive might be a stretch, but yes, it is significantly better as a 1/3. I think when they put out Selective Breeder, they thought of, okay, last time we had a card like this, Stitch Tracker, it was a 3 mana 2/2. We want to reduce the mana cost, so we'll make it a 2 mana 1/1. That is really, really bad. We very fringe played Stitch Tracker, and Selective Breeder also was just like a very fringe, meme-y kind of card. This goes a significant distance in letting it at least do something on the turn you play it, in terms of helping to manage the board. So these are 2 very impactful nerfs. Whenever you see something go from 2 to 1, remember, that's not just a 1 mana difference. That is half the cost, and it's kind of the most significant a 1 mana change can be, unless you are making something free or taking something from being free to 1 mana.
Oh, can we get this with Wandmaker now? Does that make it good? Can we?
We're talking about Wildfire as
spell.
well.
It's a weapon. Damn.
Yes.
Yeah, the next change.
You would think that Wandmaker would make wands, and wands are weapons. I follow the logic here. By the way, for fun, I reviewed the last 3 cards that were taken from 1 mana to 2 mana to emphasize the significance of the nerf. Renew, Evocation, Invocation of Frost. After being nerfed, all 3 cards instantly died. Renew was, I think, the most playable after? Maybe Invocation of Frost, I don't know. But those decks, stopped existing. So, 2 mana to 1 mana, on the other hand. Well, here we are.
Yeah, we're gonna find out. So far, it seems certainly to have had a pretty good effect on Leatherworking Kit. Wildfire, I think, remains to be seen. The card is definitely playable now. The question is just whether it will have a real home. I mentioned earlier that I've been playing with it a bunch. It's really cool that you can get it 12.5% of the time off of Wandmaker. The way I've built the deck, it's like the only spell besides a Fire Sale that you can find. So you really want to get to a 3 damage hero power pretty consistently. There's a ton of Discover a spell minions in that deck as well, so that you can just try and get as many wildfires as possible, because if you're going to be hero powering it, you need it to be a significant amount of burn. And it kind of goes with the next change, that is, if the deck is going to be around, it's going to be because of this change. Mordrish from 10 mana 10/10 to 8 mana 8/8. And oh boy, if you don't recall, Mordrish Fire Eye says if you've done 10 damage or more with your hero power this game, deal 10 damage to all enemies. That is enemy minions and the enemy face. So if this is active, you just Pyroblast everything on the other side of the field. It's also pretty significant even if you're playing it on turn 10, because you get to fit in a hero power that turn as well. I was facing, some Divine Shields sometimes, and being able to hero power a Libram of Hope Divine Shield and then have the 10 damage clear was, pretty impactful. And oftentimes I wouldn't quite have them at 10, but I would have them at like 13 or something. So being able to hero power after the 10 damage, let me do just enough for lethal. It's really good, and most of my wins were off the back of Mordresh Fire Eye.
Mordresh is also really good. When you steal it in duels and you're playing Priest with the hero power that deals 1 damage every time you play a spell.
That's gross. Yeah. Mordresh, I opened and he was my golden legendary for the expansion. And also, the first game of Stormwind that I played was concluded by my Mordresh on turn 10. And I'm excited for turn 10 to be on turn 8. I'm pretty stoked for that, because Mordresh is ridiculously powerful, and turn 8 is way sooner. Way sooner. Like, I've seen turn 8s regularly in this format, and turn 10s less regularly. So, this is faster than Alexstrasza now, and also more damage. Cool. And then, the red cards.
Yes. I haven't gotten the chance to play with these yet, but it's probably where I'm going to mess around with next. We have 3 warrior cards, all pirates, that got changed. So you can guess what they're trying to push here. The answer is Quest Warrior. We have Stormwind Freebooter going from 3 mana 3/3 Battlecry, gain +2 attack, to a 3 mana 3/4. That 1 health, pretty significant, going into things like Drain Soul, so that's nice. Additionally, Stonemaul Anchorman, going from 4/5 to a 4/6, lets you actually rush into, 5/5s and still get the draw. I've definitely had a few moments before this where you could rush into something just because you had to clear, and you wouldn't be getting that draw, so, that would be disappointing. Now, as a 4/6, very often going to get that draw. And then the last one, Bloodsail Deckhand, going from a 1 mana 2/1 to a 1 mana 2/2 with Battlecry. Your next weapon costs 1 mana less. So I don't know if we're going to have an aggressive Quest Warrior or a sort of controlling Quest Warrior, but these are definitely going to be very helpful towards that being a playable deck.
That Deckhand buff is nuts.
Ridiculous.
We have never had a 1 mana 2/2 with strict upside for you.
We had it once. We had it once. Battle Fiend. That card was good.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that card was better than this. But this is still really good.
For that to be the ballpark that you're living in, you're still you're still batting in the big leagues.
Yeah. Still pretty freaking good. I think I keep talking about this, but these would have been pretty backbreaking for Duels, to be honest, if it weren't for the Duels updates that we'll talk about soon. But hopefully this makes Pirate Warrior more of a thing in Standard. With the other decks slowing down a bit, I think that there's the possibility. And also thinking that Freebooter as a 3/4 is significantly better against Perpetual Flame, which, even though it got nerfed, is probably still going to see quite a bit of play in decks, and I would imagine that Pirate Warrior struggled a bit against Quest Shaman, so with that deck getting slower, with Quest Warlock getting slower, maybe there's room for Pirate Warrior in Standard. It just depends on if the very aggressive, efficient decks are kind of take over the format. If we see a lot of those, I don't know if Pirate Warrior can keep up with those, but this definitely puts them in a better spot to do that. So excited to see how this changes Standard for sure.
Yeah. The pirates we have for Warrior and Standard right now are really weird because they're all good cards, but they're not aggressive cards like we've seen with pirates in the past. And there's like some weapon synergy going on there, but they all seem to be like mid-rangey and slower. Like your Cargo Guard and a Sword Eater turn, good cards, but it makes the warrior quest as well, like, you end up being this weird grindy thing. I guess warrior has always been, play some minions like your shield maidens of the world to gain armor and slow the game down so that you can kill them with your value. It's kind of a strange control warrior, but with a lot of small minions thing. It's interesting. But in Wild, this is probably the best deck in the game. Because Pirate Warrior was already extremely good in Wild before they buffed a bunch of the pirates. And they were already playing Freebooter and Deckhand. So yeah.
And there's no more Quest Warlock, so...
And there's no more Quest Warlock, yes. So, that's standard and Wild, but we have some Duels changes while we're in the constructed section.
Yeah, so there were some Duels updates, as I was saying. Quest Pirate Warrior was very, very was one of the big mainstays of Duels, was one of the more top performing decks, but that's because a lot of the pirates have battle cries, and if we look at these changes, party replacements, rally the troops, and oops all spells have been moved from passive treasure pool 2 to pool 2 ultra rare. So rally the troops, a very big battle cry passive that you would basically take in almost every single deck, including the very heavy priest spell decks. You would still take this because those decks would often have a bunch of like wand makers, and you would just be playing battle cry minions to draw your spells to make them cost 2 less and then kill your opponents in 1 turn. Oops all spells, we talked about a little earlier. This is just this passive. I've gotten to play with it once. It feels just totally busted. You get 2 spell damage, all your spells get reduced by 1, and you don't draw anything but spells. So
and
it's
weapons.
Just like
and Quickening Blade and Eldraki Warblades.
Oh, true. If you're playing Demon Hunter, which I never do, you would also draw the weapons, and you also get, if you have a couple minions in your starting hand, those also don't get destroyed. It just, like, the game starts, the passives trigger, and then it destroys all your minions. But yeah, oops all spells, quite good. Kind of surprised to see party replacements here. Party replacements gives you a 2/2 adventurer at the start of every single one of your turns. I don't know that I've ever felt like this was one of the more powerful treasures you could get, but I'm assuming they have a lot of data showing that it performs quite well, so I'm not super sad to see it go altogether. And
so the kind of gameplay
uh,
experience that you want to be special, when that comes up, you're kind of playing against the same deck no matter what they're doing, because they always just get a pile of 2/2s every turn, and that kind of becomes what the game's about. And so it's more of how it homogenizes the gameplay experience, I think. Like, it's good, but it's more that when you're playing against a party replacements deck, you're not playing against their deck, you're playing against party replacements. You're dealing with these 2/2 adventures every turn, plus what they do on top of it. It's not the sort of thing that should be what you face multiple times a run. And that's why it's just a rarity swap here, right?
Okay. And then speaking of kind of rarity swaps, All Together Now, which was a passive that just reduced the battle cries in your deck to cost 1 less, but not less than 1, was moved from Treasure Pool 1 to Treasure Pool 2, which means you can no longer get All Together Now and Rally the Troops in the same deck, because that is busted when all of your battle cries cost 1 less and they draw you a card that also costs less. And also, you can't get All Together Now and double battle cries anymore. So this is a huge, huge, huge nerf to battle cry decks. Overall, I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of sad to see this. But I don't know that my experience playing Duels is the same as everybody else, because I like to play broken stuff. The reason I play Duels is to have broken games where I do kind of stupid stuff on like turn 2 and make 30 power on turn 2, which is not really going to be as possible anymore. And also, like, I don't necessarily love that the the first 3 got moved from Treasure Pool 2 to Ultra Rare, because it means you're still going to see the passives. And if these are like super broken passives, but you're still going to see them every once in a while, it feels like you're just not going to see them very often, but you're still going to play them if you have good runs. I don't like that feeling so much.
Yeah. The broken stuff is what Duels is about. Like, the point of the mode existing is to give you those late run completely insane decks. Part of this is the gameplay experience homogeneity that we talked about, but also part of this is I doubt that they have the resources to tweak the passive bonus that you get based on your deck. That's kind of the thing that changed Duels, when they made your deck dictate which passives you got. There was a point where it was like, if you had Nat Pagal and Lore Walker Cho in your deck, you always got the passive that interfired every minion in your deck. Always, always, always. It was way too consistent. They turned it back down to where it was way less consistent, and now they're somewhere in the middle, where they want you to have some ability to shape your run, but not total control over it. And when you see things moving to ultra rare like this that we know are really powerful, it's because they don't have the ability to really shape the algorithm, so they're treating the symptoms. The person that I know that works on Duels, Atesh Tabayrak, great guy. I know also he's been very involved with Mercenaries. I don't know if there are the dev resources that are being allocated to Duels more than just pool swaps, technologically, for them to work in the algorithm of how do we weight which passives you see and which passives you don't. Whiffing on a passive sucks. When you build your deck around it, whiffing sucks. But getting the same things every time is not really fun. It makes the meta a little bit too stale. There's got to be someplace right in the middle. What they're doing here is saying these are both power outliers and unique fun gameplay experiences that players enjoy. We don't want them to go away, but we can't find a way right now to balance it so that you see these less often, but not none often, without just a flat adjustment to their rarity. I think that there is a way in the future that you can make Duels a little bit more balanced here, where you get that variety of gameplay experience. You get to play what you want to play, but you don't always get to hit the power spikes. But that might just be something that takes more resource they don't have right now. That's my theory, anyways.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Also, Void Touch Attendant. You can't.
Oh,
you can't do that.
I was gonna say of these changes, the one I'm most happy about is Voided Touched Attendant is now banned from deck creations. You kill so many people with that card.
On like turn 5, they just die from 20.
Yeah, we're on turn 4 when you just like... I mean, you can just... Oh, it's so gross when you Void Touch Attendant and then you play the treasure that kills one of their minions, and then you spawn a bunch of O1s that now, instead of dealing 1 damage to your opponent, now all deal 2. Oh, by the way, they also took 2 from you casting the spell. Oh, by the way, if you played any other spells during that time, it also deals an extra damage. The deck is just way, way, way too good at outputting tons of damage, and Void Touch Attendant kind of takes it to a new level, so I'm glad to see this card gone from deck creation. I'll be happy to never see another one of those, because there's too many games that just get... It feels like you either steal or get stolen from you because you're at 15 or 16, and then all of a sudden you're just taking that full amount in one turn. So I'm glad to see this card gone.
Yep. Also, there's more. We're about to finish the first section. Good lord. The next two will be a little shorter. Not a lot shorter, but a little shorter. Arena, Ramming Mount, banned from Arena. You can't draft it. Card's super gross in Arena. Like, it's unbeatable. You just play it and then your stuff never dies. In addition, there was a bug with card offering rates. You were seeing a lot more epics that was unintended, and the offering rates are going to be adjusted to account for the bug, which will help move all classes closer to the 50% win rate. Speaking of bugs, there were a lot of bug fixes that were important. I don't normally read out every bug fix, but they were all good bug fixes this week that had some gameplay stuff. So, first, there was a bug causing crashes when the friends list opened. That's been fixed. Fixed a bug where friends could sometimes not be challenged. Fix a bug where Maestra of the Masquerade would sometimes have you start the game as a rogue, in parentheses, not her best disguise. That is a deck tech line if I've ever heard one. Fixed a bug that prevented Grand Magus Antonidas from hitting stealth targets and resulted in Antonidas potentially hitting the caster's own face if the enemy hero was in stealth. Yes, I've seen this. Yes, it was hilarious. It was unintended. Fixed a bug where tradable cards would keep enchantments if shuffled into your deck by something other than tradable. So if you discount a card off the Demon Hunter quest and then you glide it back in, it doesn't keep the discounts anymore. Those go away. Fixed bugs where cards like Razormane Battleguard would not properly reduce the cost of cards after Celestial Alignment was played. Fixed a bug where Baron Scavenger's cost could be reduced below 1 while you had 10 or fewer cards in your deck. So, Scavenger costing 0 off a Rod discount was not supposed to happen. So it's not happening anymore. Fixed a bug where High Lord 4 Dragon would trigger on minions that were not in play, like if they were glided. That was kind of funny. Fixed bugs where cards like Master of Realities and Whelp Smuggler would have an incorrect number of triggers. Fixed a bug where swapping a Tavern Tier 6 minion would sometimes cause it to disappear. I didn't know about this one, but that's kind of funny. Apparently, if you, like, Malygos hero powered a Tier 6 minion, it would just vanish. And it was just gone. Yeah, I don't know. Fixed a visual bug that sometimes would cause enemy Tavern Tiers to show as resets to Tavern Tier 1. Fixed a bug where... Yeah. Fixed a bug where chat settings were not being saved in the Hearthstone client.
Oh my gosh. Finally. Instead of auto-squelching the people I would actually want to talk to.
Yes.
It's now fixed.
And there is a bug currently, thanks to Jay Correct in chat for reminding me, Terragosa is not currently available in BGs. She was crashing games. So they temporarily hotfixed her out of games. On the server side, she'll be back. Unlike her buffs in combat, she's not removed forever.
It's a good dog video on that one.
There is a lot of good dog videos.
I want to know, Maestra of the Masquerade, I want to know if people started as rogue and then they played a rogue card, if it would still do the animation.
It does.
It does still do. That's kind of funny.
It's you know that gif of the wrestler that takes the mask off and it's a mask of his own face and then it's got him underneath. It's that experience. Yeah,
that's pretty good. I almost wish they kept it just for that specifically.
It's pretty funny. They'd never expect that you're a rogue. So, Battlegrounds time. Let's talk about Battlegrounds. All right, next bumper. You ready? Let's go.
Gee, I wonder what the next one's going to be. All right, so Battlegrounds updates. So we got a ton of updates here. We'll start with some of the hero updates. So Shudderwalks, Snicker Snack hero power was used to cost 0 mana, is now up to 2 mana. Makes a lot of sense. 0 mana for a minion that does a whole lot of stuff that is very beneficial to you is too cheap. Hopefully 2 mana is right around where it wants to be for something like that. Probably still quite good. The next one, Galewind Dungar's...
Wait, hold on, did you say that Shudderwalk's still good? Is that true?
Was it not good? I don't know.
No, Shudderwalk was very good. How... Post-nerf, I feel like it's kind of...
At 2 mana, you don't think it's... So,
No.
I mean, that hero power is still very strong.
It's very different. You no longer do the stay on one curve and just try and hit tokens and stuff. I think you have to try and keep pace with everyone else. And then when you get some free gold, get the Shudderwalk minions. But I don't... Yeah, it won't spike the same way it used to, which is good. It was kind of ridiculous that you would just go to suddenly triples for tier 6 minions. But I just don't know if 2 gold is going to be like so slow that it's just not good enough. I don't know.
Well, wouldn't you still just be able to do the same thing, right? If just the stay on one strategy? I guess it costs you 2 mana, so what a lot of times you would have to do, I would guess. I didn't actually know that this was a strategy you could use, but you could still only get two golden. I guess you get 4 goldens over 2 turns, and then right? Because you'd have to get... Huh. That's interesting. I'd have to see gameplay footage of people doing that, because it makes sense, but I don't know.
It was being used mostly as a way to power spike for off of tokens and turbo level and get triples, and that depended a lot on your economy being like on razor thin margins, and you just don't have that anymore. So it's kind of just a different card now, and I feel like what they intended Shutterwalk to be was like the Menagerie Bonanza, where you had one minion of each type, and you would just get a bunch of battle cries, and you would go off with Bran or whatever. But Menagerie sucks so bad that it's not even good enough. So it's just the turbo token strategy got set back so far here that I'm not even sure Shutterwalk is worth playing. I want to see what good players do with it, because I'm not a good player, but I'd be curious to see where this lands.
Okay, that makes sense. Galewind Dungar's Griffin, the 5-turn option would just upgrade your tavern tier, and now it just reduces the cost of your next tavern tier by 5. And this is a big hit. This is a very big hit, I think, to Galewing. It kind of needed a big hit, because I guess it was one of the most powerful heroes in BGs, but I don't know where this puts it now. I don't know if now you switch, because I believe the traditional curve was to do the 3-turn, and then you level so that you level a turn 2 turns early to get to Tavern Tier 3, so that ideally you can get 3 Tavern Tier 3 minions super early and stabilize, and then go for upgrading from 5 to 6, 4, 5, and 6 in like basically one set of turns. So now you can't do that. I feel like this is going to hurt it a lot.
Probably just ends up being 3 free minions over the course of the game now, which is still good. But before, it was what, like you did the 3-5-3 thing, where it's you got the free minion, then you did the upgrade, and then that put you on turn 9. You would hit Tavern Tier 6, and then you would just get a free minion 3 turns later. That's pretty good. Something like that.
So it's kind of like a 0 mana. I don't know. It's weird. I feel like the nerf to what was the one that was 1 mana make a minion go away and you get it in 3 turns? You get it in 2 turns?
No, Maiev.
No.
Maiev.
It's like Maiev, but only once every 3 turns now? I don't know.
Yes, the way I would think about it is just like you were getting a little too much gold out of that tavern tier upgrade, and so they've capped it at 5. Because usually you would time it so that you were upgrading from 5 to 6, and you're often getting like a 9 gold value out of that free upgrade. So yeah, my thinking about it is just in terms of that was too much gold for it to be giving you. And reducing it by 5 means it's capped at giving you 5 gold for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like it's a fairly big nerf, but if people are saying that just going 3-3-3 all the time works, then I think it might end up being fine in the long run. We'll see. It definitely won't be as high as it was, though, for sure, I would assume. Next is Master Win. We know about this hero because this hero is way too powerful. It basically just adjusted the odds of getting certain hero power offerings. They're not changing the text because there's no way to change the text to reflect this. But basically, you will now see Reno, Akazamzarak, George, Omu, and Millhouse significantly less often, which is good because anybody who's played Master Win and gotten Reno at any point in the game knows how broken that is. I think I got it on turn 2 once, and I just upgraded a the Quillbore that gives you back gives you blood gems.
So
So
Sunbake and
instead of
Relaxer?
giving, yeah, and so I just got 4 blood gems, and it was still really freaking good
Yeah.
because Reno Hero Power that goes away and you get to choose a different one is pretty broken. So
Yep.
I'm glad to see that. I'm surprised that Zephyrus isn't in this list.
I think 3 gold for a minion, even if it's a minion that you want, is still just not a deal that you need to mess up that much. You had to be in a pretty specific state to take advantage of it, and you know, it's good, but it's still 3 gold for a minion.
Right. Yeah, the Reno one was like, you could
Yeah.
be in a position where there's no way you're not getting first that lobby. The trolled in video of RDU
Hitting the Doomsayer. Yeah.
Yeah, hitting the Doomsayer
Jeez.
and then hitting the Reno Hero Power, and it's just like, oh, golden Doomsayer. It's a 412, which one is like enough to just kill most things, and you know, always going to survive in combats at that point in the game. And then Avenge 3 get 2 minions. That's also changed, but at the time,
Thankful.
totally ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, I believe in that video, the first turn that he had Doomsayer in play, he got 4 demons.
Ugh.
4.
Ugh.
So much gold.
Seemed unfair. So they nerfed it. They nerfed every part of the thing we just said. Yeah, and there are a lot of minion changes too.
Right. So like Defiant Shipwright, which was the 2-star 3/4 minion that you would get a pirate every time you upgraded your tavern tier, is gone, and South Sea Captain is back. I am sad. I really liked Defiant Shipwright, even though it didn't make any sense that it wasn't a pirate. I have no idea why it wasn't a pirate. I love this card.
What?
It's a 2-star 3/4.
Okay, it's a 3/4, sure.
A lot of the 3/4s get nerfed, and then you get free pirates. You just get free minions every time you upgrade your tavern tier.
Not free. You get the liberty of buying a pirate. It doesn't go to your hand. It goes to the shop.
It's a free pirate added to Bob's Tavern. It just adds it.
But then you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay for it. You get to borrow Ysera's hero power for a turn.
You just want a broken minion that gives you free minions? What are we, impatient Doomsayer? What are you talking about?
No, we just don't want this minion. We want it gone. And want the pirate that is South Sea Captain back.
Yes. Or just put a pirate tag in Defiant Shipwright.
I like Defiant Shipwright. I think it's better than South Sea Captain.
Okay.
Well,
I think South Sea Captain sucks.
I don't think that either of these, neither of these minions are burning the world down exactly. But like, I don't know. Shipwright was just very strange. And all of pirates are about pirate density, and then you have this one random tier 2 minion that is not a pirate.
I bought a lot of pirates that my Defiant Shipwright just added to Bob's Tavern for free.
Not free, included.
For free.
Included. You had to pay for them. You didn't have to pay extra.
Well, I think his point is that it does not go towards the limit of minions in the tavern.
Yeah, and it can also give you a pirate from the tavern that you're upgrading to.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
It's gone, Bottom.
I like the minion now, right?
Gone. Speaking of things that are gone. Speaking of things that are gone.
I mean, it's not gone. It's just way worse than it was, and it needed to be.
Are you taking this card now? Are you picking this?
Probably not.
Still fine with
I would probably take it off a triple. It's probably like decent to take off of a triple if your board state aligns with it. But Impatient Doomsayer was a Tavern Tier 3 minion with Avenge 3, add a random demon to your hand. Now it's Tavern Tier 4, where it should have been the whole time, and it's Avenge 4, add a random demon. It's still giving you free resources, and sometimes getting free resources is good. It's just not going, like, often when Doomsayer was broken is when you would get it early and it would give you 2 demons right away, and that was way too good. It's going to be way harder, and you're going to need a much more specific board state to get 2 or 3 free demons in your hand. So really glad to see this change, because this card was too good and kind of the main reason why rushing to Tavern Tier 3 and you would just run away with a lot of games. You would just run away with so many games where you would get this on turn 3, and it wasn't because it was giving you demons, it was because it was giving you free gold to be able to upgrade your tavern tier faster, stabilize your board even better, and even sometimes getting the demon that gives you 3 additional gold. That's sometimes that's more than one gold. Oftentimes it's way more than that. And since it's specifically demons, it would also often get you triples if you got it super early, because there wasn't a huge demon pool for it to pull from. So it was just too good where it was at. Now it's way more in line with the other with the battle cry version of it, which saw play very rarely, but I think this should probably see play about as rarely as that one did, if not slightly more often, because I think getting random demons is better than getting random battle cries.
Yeah, this is where I think the Avenge 4 is really important to make it fall in line a bit, because as you say, the demons are better. They also fuel it a lot better. Like, you can take the demons from this and get the 1-star that summons 2/1/1 imps, get the taunt that summons an imp. You can get all of these things that summon more minions in combat to activate the Avenge more. And so that just really snowballed the effect. Whereas with battle cries, that doesn't really happen. They're battle cries, not death rattles. So you're not able to use the minions from the matron itself to be able to fuel it. You can get a lot of money because the token generators are battle cries, and that's kind of a thing. So it can still give you money to transition, but it doesn't fuel itself in the same way.
Yeah, matron is great in Menagerie. Oh wait, that's not a thing.
Yep. Oftentimes the problem with the battle cry generator is that you would get battle cries that do not synergize with your board state.
It was just for money. It was really just so you could play them and sell them to either roll more or upgrade the tavern.
So with Doomsayer moving up a tavern tier, they decided to replace the missing demon part of tavern tier 3 with Catherineteer?
No, Botticus. Small
What?
Gannis.
Okay, Small Gannis. So it was a 7/5 where your other demons have +3 attack and your hero is immune. Now it's a tavern tier 3 minion with only 5 attack and 4 health, and your other demons have +2 attack. But this is still really big, I think. It's a huge boon for Wrathweaver demon decks, because not only are there going to be a lot more Small Gannises, or whatever you want to say it's called, but it's going to be quicker to find them, and just a big boon for Wrathweaver demons, which I don't know that demons really needed, but maybe with the removal of Doomsayer, or the move of Doomsayer, they do need. So I'm happy to see that demons is still going to have viable options for powerful effects at Tavern Tier 3.
And it's smaller in stats, and the effect is smaller, but it lets Wrathweaver demons be a thing. So, like, I don't know. I'm glad that demons... They found a bunch of ways to make demons fun and good, which was something that they really struggled with for most of Battlegrounds' existence. Except for, like, there was a brief period where they were...
Where it was super broken.
Yeah, it was fun and good, except for the other 7 people in your lobby, where you would just AFK into Double Watcher and the game was over. But the snack mechanic with Urzul and Felbat is really, really fun, and having immune early makes you just go, like, crazy with the Wrathweavers, and Doomsayer was overtuned, but a cool effect that demons get to kind of be the economy class sometimes. It's been really interesting to play demons lately. So I'm glad that they found a way to make them interesting. They also found a way to make beasts interesting, but maybe push that a little bit too far. But why don't we look at these next 3 nerfs together? Let's look at these next 3 nerfs together, because they seem important.
Yeah. So the elephant in the room, the beasts, Leapfrogger went from +2/+2 and give this death rattle to +1/+1 give this death rattle. A lot of people would probably be quite worried because this could still scale quite well, except that they also changed Monstrous Macaw to, after this attacks trigger any minion's death rattle, now it has to trigger another friendly minion's death rattle, so you can no longer have it land on the macaw and have the macaw trigger itself over and over and over again and scale super big. So
You
it's
can no
scaling
longer
less.
flip yourself the bird.
Right. Oh God. You can no longer. It's God, you threw me off with that. Yeah, it's not going to scale with itself, thankfully.
No more million attack macaws.
Yes. Already you had a 3 million. He was facing a 3 million.
Yeah. It's probably... No, it's probably not possible. Unless you have 2 macaws.
But even then, if the first macaw dies when it buffs the second one, then it just goes away, because before it would just buff itself. And also, it's that you can get attacked back in the meantime. And also, getting reborn on your minion is going to be a lot harder because...
Because Reanimating Rattler went from Tavern Tier 4 to Tavern Tier 5, got a slight attack and health boost, but let's be real, you were selling that minion off basically right away anyway, so the stats almost never mattered. But basically, it's going to be harder to give your entire board reborn. So
this is
and
also
it's going to be less often that you're going to get the single one. So
this is a nerf to tripling into Rivendare, because you're going to get the stupid snake instead, and you're going to be like, "Where's my Baron?"
Yep. Still super powerful effect that I'm glad that beasts have. But honestly, as long as this brings it in line and people are less upset about it, I'm happy with these changes quite a bit to beasts, because I really did feel like if you just completely rework Leapfrogger, like they reworked Lucia, I don't know how they would have really survived in the meta. And with everything else slowing down, I think Beast is still going to have a spot, and it's still going to have some very powerful board states that are going to look kind of similar to how they do now. It's just not going to be quite as infinite scaling. It's going to be much more manageable, I believe.
You're unlikely to have 5 people fighting for this in the lobby and all of them ending up in the top 5. And Leapfrogger now early game sucks. It's really bad early game. To even be close to Spawn of N'Zoth, your entire board has to be Beasts. There are ways for Beast to be decent in the early game, mostly revolving around Bird Buddy, which is a fantastic card. But it's Leapfrogger and one Beast by itself, you're barely getting, like, it's a 4/4. It's not really all that exciting. And so it's trying to take Leapfroggers early, people are just going to die. A lot of the time when they do that, they're going to take a ton of damage and just going to die. So yeah, just going to take a while to get it all together, and once again, Beast is like the king of the super late game strats where you want a bunch of 5s and 6s. And that's... There's stuff to do in the mid game, but you have to work pretty hard at getting to the late game and then setting up, which is a much better pace.
Yep, and also kind of along the same lines of the most broken strategies, which they addressed in first of all Doomsayer and then Beast, the last of which is Whelp Smuggler, which was a 2/4, is now a 2/5, but instead of giving +2 health every time your dragons increase their attack power, it now only gives +1 health. I think this is going to be a lot more healthy for this. Your Caligos are now going to be giving +1/+2 instead of +1/+3. Your Blood Gems are not going to give +1/+3 anymore. It's just not going to make the scaling impossible to keep up with. Overall, great change to Whelp Smuggler, I think, and making it a 2/5, making it slightly more enticing, so that you don't you're not just taking this and kind of going all in on that strategy. I think is going to be good. And you're still going to have, like, it's still going to have some pretty broken stuff with like Cthulhu, Whelp Smuggler, Dragon is still going to be quite powerful. It's still, the buff is still going to be relevant, but Whelp Smuggler is not going to be the powerhouse that it was, where you would probably want another one over a second Caligos.
Yeah.
And then let's see. some other slightly less important changes, I think. So Impulsive Trickster, the Death Rattle used to be able to give its buff to itself, which would also scale stupidly, and now it can't do that. It has to give its max health to another minion, which I think is smart. Master of Realities was a Tavern Tier 6 minion, is now Tavern Tier 5. I like this a lot because I like that minion a lot. That minion's a lot of fun to play.
It's
Big
fun.
buff to elementals.
I think we can agree that at 6, this was not the most powerful thing to be doing. There are ways to set up with your party elementals and your Molten Rocks, but I think that most of the time, if you tripled into a Master of Realities, you usually weren't happy.
I was happy in that I lost.
Okay. Yeah.
I like the card a lot, so
It's
Tavern
fun.
Tier 5, I get to play it more, so I'm happy.
Yes.
A lot of
Peggy-
5s now.
Yes.
Yeah. So Peggy, the pirate, was a 5/3 and is now a 6/5. I believe the same. Everything else is pretty much the same. There was a comment from a dev saying,
Yeah, they changed the text from random pirate to friendly pirate because people thought it was going to hit pirates in the shop and it never did. So the card doesn't work any differently. They just clarified the text.
which is good.
Yep.
I like it. And then we got some pirate buffs. Gold Grubber got +2/+2. It's now a 4/4 base, which is better. Salty Looter got +0/+1. I forgot which card that is.
That's the pirate that likes other pirates. The pirate
Oh,
grower.
it's a 4/5 now. It's less
Yes.
embarrassing to
Remember when
take.
they printed that at a 3/3?
Wait, am I? Oh, yeah. Okay, the one that gets. I was thinking of the one that gives you a coin. No, this is
No.
the one that whenever you play a pirate, it gets better. So,
Yes.
Prophet of the Boar got +1/+0. Road Boar is back to a 2/4 because Quill Boars need help.
A lot of help.
And yeah, Bristleback Brute is now a 4/4 base. Dynamic Duo is now a 4/5 base. And
Unnerfed.
Charlga, what?
It reverted. It's a full reversion
For what?
for Dynamic Duo. Or was it a 5/6? When it was printed.
I thought it was always a 3/4.
No, they
No,
nerfed
no,
it.
it used to be higher stats, but yeah, I don't remember if it was a 5/6 or not.
It might have been a 5/6, but either
Yeah.
way,
Jake Rex saying
all
in
these
chat it was a
cards-
5/6. That's disgusting.
yeah.
Why did they do
all
that?
these cards, the Quill Boars need the help. Right now, Quill Boars were kind of just a support class or a support tribe, and hopefully now this can bring them more in line with everything else. In addition, Charles got its text reverted, but not its power and toughness, which makes sense because I don't think we want it to be a 7/7 again base. But it gives blood gems to itself, which it should, because otherwise you just have this 4/4 on your board that's kind of useless.
And Charlie has this infinite supply of blood gems that it just gives to everyone else. You would think that they'd be able to hold on to one every turn. So giving them all out, they clearly have more. All they had to do was hold on to one. Sometimes you gotta treat yourself. Okay, so. Hey, Battlegrounds. Have you played any of the new BGs yet, Bot?
As of today, no.
See,
That's
this
when
is the
it came
thing.
out. The patch came out, I assume.
It did today, yes. I'm looking forward to playing more. We're getting a lot of comments in chat saying that like the mode is definitely a lot less tilting to play now. I'm really looking forward to getting in there. I feel like Mechs is where I'd want to be a lot of the time, but that was already kind of the case because Omega Buster is a hell of a card. And anytime that I was in a position to take advantage of Omega Buster, I wanted to do that. But also, I'm really
Omega Buster Baron Rivendare. Ooh.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, it's so
I've done that a
good.
couple
and
times.
also, the Mech Murloc,
Meckrel. Holy Meckrel.
Meckerel, Holy Meckerel. That card is bonkers. It's so bonkers in mechs.
Yes.
Like it can't get poisoned, thankfully, but it can still get it still gets stupid strong.
Yeah. So, I'm looking forward to playing a lot of BGs. I also want to play Standard. There's too much Hearthstone to play and not enough time in the day. But, We're not done. There's more. There's more. You all ready? So, we played the big Rattle Gore soundbite for the first section. We played the halfway Gore for the second one. And for the third soundbite.
Ba 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 na na.
Were you expecting that, Botticus? Is that what you were expecting? So you thought was going to happen?
As soon as you started your spiel about 15 seconds ago, then yes, I did know that was coming.
Bamboozled again. So, Mercenaries. This is the last bit. We don't have a ton, but we have things to share with you that are important. Because the people in the chat, in the Concede Discord, have commented on how this makes a difference, and it made a difference to me too. So, some content creators, in particular, Slissa, Trump, and Crip, got early access and were able to film themselves playing a build of Mercenaries. The tutorial, some PvE missions, even some PvP. And it looked fun, at least in my humble opinion. It looked fun. Because they were playing a video game and I got to watch, which is kind of what I want to see when I think about, new video game modes. I wish that they had done that when they first revealed the mode, but they didn't. Instead, Slissa, Trump, and Crip played it, and it looked fun. They updated the FAQ on the site over at the Blizzard website for the Mercenaries launch. I'm going to pull that up here, which I definitely should have done before. It's just very professional. All right. So, the FAQ had a couple questions added, one of which, is Hearthstone Mercenaries part of the Book of Mercenaries? No, it is not. Those are not the same thing. Yes, that is an FAQ they added to the site. Deck Tech, I'm proud of you for your endless patience for writing this on the Blizzard website. But it clarified Mercenaries is completely free to play. They updated the Mercenaries costs, how much it costs to craft Mercenaries. It's 100 coins to craft a rare mercenary, 300 for an epic, and 500 for a legendary. That was 600, by the way. They crossed it out and wrote 500 on the website. I don't know if that means that they nerfed the crafting rate, or if it was just a typo. They explained what mercenaries packs are, what portraits are, how long will it take to max my mercenaries level. Well, it depends on how you play. If you just stick with your starting team and play through the bounties they unlock, we expect it to take less than 10 hours of gameplay to max level your starting mercenaries. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's a pretty cool thing. And heroic bounties offer 50% more experience than normal versions, so just be aware of that for late game mercs. There will be a leaderboard with top 200 players. They plan to make updates to mercs as often as as other modes. They'd say similar to Battlegrounds. One large update per expansion cycle, and small updates throughout the normal release cadence. And the balance adjustment philosophy. Mercenaries has a large PvE component. We don't mind it if players find a way to beat up on the AI. Even in the fighting pits, any power outliers can be smoothed out by our dynamic matchmaking that takes things like team power into account. For those reasons, we don't anticipate balance changes being a major part of the Mercenaries development cycle. But of course, if there are game-breaking or unintended interactions, we will make any changes necessary to correct them. They're not going to nerf your mercs. That's not what they're intending on doing. And this is something that I think in other games of this type, they also don't balance a lot. Like in Genshin, they don't nerf a ton. Is that true?
No, they usually buff. Usually they buff
Yeah.
underperforming. Is how
Yeah.
how I believe they've traditionally done it.
And that might be something that happens, but this is pretty clear. They intend to fix, if something is crazy powerful, they intend to narrow what those players face, but they don't intend on changing your mercs that you invest money and time into. So you don't have to worry about that, at least at first up front, because it doesn't seem like something that they're planning on doing. So be aware of that. And yeah, they also have put every mercenary that's going to be out on release on the website for you to browse. You can look at all the cards on the website and see what they all do, look at all their abilities. So, information is getting more and more plentiful. We are 3 weeks out. I imagine that we will see more of this stuff because more videos are being published already. While we were doing the show, Trumpessy published his second video about Mercs gameplay. More is coming, and there's a lot more community information out there as well on the HS Mercenaries subreddit, for example.
Will say,
Go ahead.
I don't know if there's any of you out there, but if you are in the minority of people that were like me and like ready to go on this game mode and felt like the videos didn't provide new information for you, like, that's okay. It's still good that they're around for everyone else, but also know that you're not alone. Pasca posted a thing that apparently in the Mercs Discord, they were on a quest to find what was new in the videos. And every time someone pointed out something, for example, confirmed that cooldown ticks while on bench, someone else replied with a source where the information had already been available. I think that there's only one new thing we learned from the videos, and it's the end of season PvP rewards. Also, maybe the fact that level 1 buildings cost 0 gold, but that was expected. I would think... I don't know if the amount of coins that you need to craft the different rarities was disclosed. That felt new to me, but...
The new information that I enjoyed was the information I had that people that didn't get the initial presentation now were enjoying the idea of playing the game. By far the best thing. It's watching content creators play that are good at making content made things a lot more approachable. And I think that's what you talked about most, Edelweiss, that the best part about this was that other people were finally starting to share your excitement.
Yeah, 100%. And I described it as well as like, this was the Let's Play, whereas before we just had the rule book, and a lot of people don't actually read the rule book before learning how to play a game. They just want to see someone else play it or have that person show them. And so this is helpful for a whole bunch of people for those reasons, because not everyone is like me, is just like, okay, before we play this, I'm going to take like an hour to read the rules.
Yeah. And I think that's going to do it for a special Tuesday episode. But we'll be back in 2 days. We shall return. But in the meantime, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at CoinConcede.com. You can find our content info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can support our show financially at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord, discord.coinconcede.com. Right into our email, coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/CoinConcede. If you like some of our swag, head into our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Doge DK, Proby1, Crash, Cap, B-Squatch, David P, Snowpack, Lucky, Fade to Black, Wild Loop, Ponius, Itinerant Wizard, and also Dila Cash. Thank you so much for the hosts and our subs during the show, Stowel J, Crash, Electric Sheep City, Proby1, and Doge DK ×5. Coin Concedes, Dragon Rider, Caster for Grandmasters. Oh, it was so much fun to see Donnie cast Grandmasters. You two are making faces like this is new information to you.
This is totally new information for me. I need to watch this.
You did. You do. You did and do. It's she casted a day of Grandmasters with TJ.
Well,
That's awesome.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I will definitely watch it imminently.
No, you did need to watch it, and then you still do.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
It was amazing. She's so great. Super excited for the Donnie Dragon Rider DK future. Really, really like professional, enthusiastic, and fun. And I had a great time watching her. They're trying out a whole bunch of different guest casters to see who's gonna make it to fill in. I think it's probably backfilling Frodan's spot. And I'm not sure if like maybe some other people will cycle out and make way for the new blood. That seems to be what's happening. And we'll talk about that as well with the Grandmasters themselves. There are a bunch of people that are retiring. But the important thing is, Dragon Rider, you're awesome. You should feel awesome. Congratulations. We're she's been working so hard at this for so long. So it's really, really great.
I was gonna say, well deserved to
Yep.
to have that opportunity. She's been working for a long time. She's been working real hard, so it's really good to see.
And Edelweiss had Dragon Rider written down her coin concedes from the last episode, so I just assumed that she was current and aware of what was going on. I won't make that mistake again. Edelweiss, what are your coin concedes?
Well, I mean, also to Dragon Rider and Swaybe, who cast the Supergirl Gamer Pro invitational, I guess we'll say. I guess they had some leftover budget after the last event and decided to just take the 8 of us that performed the best in the series earlier and do a little playoff. It was Nayara and I again in the finals. She got me this time, so yeah, we've got a nice rivalry going. She's up 2-1 presently, but I'll get her next time. So I have a coin concede to Nayara as well because she's just a really great rival to have.
Amazed that you didn't take her down with Quest Priest.
All right, you know what? If I had gotten the Demon Hunter, I think I would have been okay. It was there to target Demon Hunter.
After the Elucia nerf today, I don't know if that strategy will be tenable going forward, but we'll see.
Well, that wasn't... I mean, that's part of why it was good, but another part of why it was good is that deck generally struggles to deal with 2-post and 4-post. Ogremancer, but don't always see them, and I certainly wasn't prepared for a tempo Il'gynoth. So if you had the opportunity, go back and watch that game. It was something. It was a really great series overall.
God, yeah. I've played against the unexpected tempo Il'gynoth. It's so brutal. You have to do so much stuff
He's huge
to kill that
now.
thing.
He's enormous.
8 toughness is so much.
Yeah,
and I had to silence it to not be dead, but then it was a 4/11.
Yep. Oh, with focused will. It's huge. Yeah, and then it just hits you. It just hits you. Yeah. It's
yeah, most of the time you're like, well, I can trade into this, but I'll take 12 to kill it. Like, I have the stats to do it, but I'll take 12, and I can't do that. So, oh man, that's so brutal.
Yes. Bodicus coin concedes. Let's go.
All right. Pro B1 had a fantastic coaching session, coaching some Slay the Spire. So we've said it on the cast a few times, but if you don't know what you want coaching in, and you've played some Slay the Spire and want some help with Ironclad and taking Perfected Strikes, you're looking at him. I can help you out with some Ironclad. And then also Fade to Black had a great coaching session. First time I've done a BG coaching session. I switched it up a little bit where I played and then explained all my thought processes and allowed him to ask questions while I was playing, so that he doesn't have to worry about all the mechanics of what minion I'm talking about when I say to buy stuff, how to position the minions. And I played a couple of games on my end, and then we played a game with him, and I think it worked out really well. So hopefully future BG coaching sessions, we can do something similar. Because I think it works out really well, and he said he learned a lot from that, so I'm very glad I was able to help, and looking forward to more BG coachings in the future.
And I've been informed off camera that I have an additional coin concede, that I'm coin conceding to Bodicus for playing Unite on mobile tomorrow with One Fly That Kite. I've been informed that is a coin concede of mine, because Pokemon Unite is going to be on your phone tomorrow, and so you no longer have any excuse.
Oh no.
And she made me say that.
Oh yeah.
Very convincing. Yeah. So just throwing that out there. That you've been had. So keep calm and flip yourself the bird. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All right. Stopping recording. Cool. Audio interface cooperated the whole time. That's really nice. Hey, thanks everyone for hanging out. And we'll be back in 2 days. No, Doji it's the macaw nerf. It used to be able to flip itself the bird. That's what it did. So yes, we'll see you all on Thursday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks so much for hanging out. Bye.